Hey girls, we are back. Girls, we are back. Oh my gosh, and it is part 4 of our series of, what is it like post-grad, post-undergrad, just entering the workforce, straight out of college. You're still a young professional or an emerging young professional, right? In a corporate setting. And, what does that look like? How to conduct ourselves, how to, get a foot ahead, how to gain a competitive advantage over our, competition, or the same individuals who may be going for, that same position, that same promotion, whatever it is. If you are new here and you don't even know what I'm talking about, girl, I am Bianca. I am a young professional. I am a mom of 2. I have 2 little boys, Jason, Tate. I am 30 years old. I've pretty much been working in a corporate, environment now for 7 years, not including, a couple of other things that I did before my current job. I lead a team of individuals, outside of the United States, as well as, in the United States, in Georgia. And, girl, I do all of this while, working remotely. I am the founder of Beasting Fitness. Did I mention that I was a mom? Yeah. Oh, so with all that being said, girl, I am just a regular person, okay? I am a regular person just like you, and I just really wanted to come on and share, kind of some personal anecdotes, just bits, tips and tricks, how to, like we mentioned, get ahead of the game, gain a competitive advantage, just how to be professional on the job, how to, really offer value to your current organization. Things that I wish that I did better, things that I didn't do, things that I learned along the way. So, if that sounds like something that you're interested in, I'm glad to have you here. If you are returning and you've been following us this whole entire time, girl, thank you for following us. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you've left a comment by now and I've responded. I'm interested to hear, which part of this journey, sits with you. Where are you in your professional career? Whether that is, dental hygiene, whether that's nursing, whether that's banking, whether that's billing, accounts receivable, whether that's cybersecurity, whether that's digital analytics, what is it, girl? Where are you? What do you do? How do you make your money, girl? How do you get that coin? How do you get that bag? All the way up until now, we have talked about, the dancing game, kind of being in that gray area when you are a contract worker, that's kind of been surfacing and trending the last couple of years, to what does it look like now as a permanent employee. So now you've been hired on permanently, but you still have to, really prove yourself and continue to, work hard, study, and deliver value into, a junior or senior role. So you got a promotion, girl, you've been doing good on the job, now you got a promotion, and what does it look like, or what's the difference between performing in that junior senior role versus, a more entry-level role? And girl, I told you guys that the story was gonna unfold beautifully, because do you guys remember in part 1, I was sharing with you guys how I was, not the highest paid individual on my team. Girl, I was not. And do you remember me telling you how, I really sat with my work, things that I wish that I did differently, and all of that good stuff, right? And remember me telling you about how what I was doing on the job in those very, integral, times when I was, a permanent employee, or even a contract worker about to be hired on into a permanent employee, the differences in work that I was doing versus, some of my peers or some of my other coworkers, right? Well, girl, now we're here and we're the supervisor. Okay. Yeah, baby. Yeah. So, isn't it so beautiful how God works on your behalf? Because it would be so remiss of me to not, give credit to, how this all unfolded, who even made this happen. I did not get here by myself. I did not get here overnight. This was not a cakewalk. It was, a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes made, a lot of things learned along the way. And throughout it all, God really, had me in mind, and he really, had his hand around me And, he held my hand the entire way. He really, covered me when it was time for me to be covered. And, he really, protected me. And he really crafted the pieces to the puzzle. He moved individuals out the way. He brought individuals in. He let certain things unravel and reveal themselves while, speaking to me and, sculpting me, molding me into the individual that even, was able to lead in this position. So, girl, yes, I started out as a contract worker, then I got hired on permanently, then I was promoted to a senior position within my organization, girl, and now I am the supervisor of that group, and that group looks very different today than it did when I first started, but I am still so blessed because I know right now that I am leading a group of people that I'm supposed to be leading, and I'm so happy. And without everything that happened prior until now, we wouldn't be here. So, girl, let's get into it. Let's get into what we're talking about today. I think I want to start off with just highlighting the fact that, we already talked about, a couple of times before, how you have to perform well within a role, a little bit before even getting the next role. And I think that that's where a lot of people get stuck. So two things. One, onus sits with the organization, the leaders, top down, to make it plain that is a requirement, that there are prerequisites that exist. You have to show us, demonstrate that you can perform at that level for a certain length of time. Not saying that there's a defined timeline, but that consistency does exist, that this is actually who you say that you are. This is who you are showing up to work to be every single day. These are the quality deliverables. This is how you are able to perform within that job role. And this is what we should expect of you. And typically, employers want to see this, for a year, maybe a little bit over a year, maybe 2 years even, 3 years even. I don't think that there may be a defined timeline, but every organization is different. They just want to see, before we give you this responsibility, are you able to perform within this responsibility? And I think that is a bit of wisdom that I need to share to the girls. Baby, you're not getting no position just based off of thinking that you should have it, right? Based off of, we spent a little bit of time, in our senior part A and part B that, I could have even done a part 3 to, being in a junior senior role. Let me know if you guys want that. And a little bit of time in that series kind of talking about, what it feels like to, be more skillful or have a stronger skill set or, own more responsibilities or do more things than, somebody who is leading you and what that feels like. But, just kind of reminded the girls that, but we should still not slack off on ourselves, not cheat ourselves, continue to work hard, continue to be consistent, continue to, be value add to your organization, because, girl, what is, destined for you, will come. And so, we kind of just spoke and gave encouragement about that, but just on that same tip and taking it a step further now that we are into our supervisor series, in that same book, John Maxwell's 360-degree leader, he talks about how when you are at a people management position, when you're in a people management position, having to lead other individuals, having to develop other individuals, and having to kind of communicate feedback with them, goals with them, and and now you're setting goals for them. So you are speaking with them about what their upcoming year is going to look like, and their performance this year leading up until this point, and things they did well, and areas of improvement, all the things. That's kind of just where we are right now. But I just kind of wanted to take you back to where I was, right? Because there was a large sense of me that, like I told you guys, I remember being a just hired on employee, and just the things that I was learning, just the leadership skills that were already innately inside of me, just kind of all of those things. Like, I was a natural born leader. I know how to lead people. I know how to learn something and teach it back to other individuals very professionally, very efficiently. These are just things that I kind of knew about myself. But having had not had the opportunity to perform within that role. And, I always knew that I was going to be the supervisor. And girl, we are here. We are sitting in it. And you know what? It doesn't look exactly like I thought it was gonna look. But the good thing about it is I really didn't think too much about what it would look like or what it would feel like, because I never wanted a position. And that is the perfect segue to lead into what we were talking about. It got to a point when I was a senior and I was like, man, I'm doing this. I am, I'm formatting these files. I am paying attention to these trends. I am preventing, this, or, implementing risk management. I am, training people. I am making sure that they get their work done. I am doing, so there were just all of these things that I was doing as a senior that I felt like were supervisory type things, right? So you guys thought I was just talking to you just to be talking. You guys thought I was talking from a place that I could not relate to. You guys just thought I was giving tips, right? No, girl. I was giving tips based upon my personal experiences. These are experiences that I have had and that I have felt before myself. I have felt before, wow, I feel like I am being a supervisor, or wow, I feel like my supervisor should be doing this, or wow, I feel like my manager should be doing this, or wow, I don't feel like I'm getting paid enough to be doing this, or wow, I think that I'm doing this and I'm wasting my time and nobody's paying attention to what it is that I'm doing. They don't even know what I'm doing. They don't even know how it's getting done. Yeah, girl, those are all feelings that I've had before, that I felt before. And like I said, I was so caught up in those feelings. I was so caught up in, I've already done this. I'm already doing this. I'm already a supervisor. I'm already performing. And I also remember feeling that way when I was a permanent employee before I was promoted to a senior. So do you get what I'm saying when I say that you will be performing in your current role leading up into the role that you want to be promoted to for quite some time, if that makes sense, right? Because I had to demonstrate that I was able to, lead a team, train individuals, self-manage myself, that I was able to, think through a process and make recommendations to a better process, and, have written procedures and make sure that I was, very nice and polite, and that I did this for several years in the making and got compliments from other groups, and, really hit my goals each and every year and surpassed my goals each and every year, and really went the extra mile, and made work easier for my manager, and just all the things, right? I was doing this for a little bit before I was even promoted to a supervisor. And so now I was here, and let me tell you the part that I was not doing, right? Let me tell you the part that I was not doing, because I'm never too big to say, okay, well, I had all of this thought out up until this point, right? The people management part. Let's talk about it, because girl, I'm here. And if you are a manager, a director, if you are anything, I am definitely interested to, gain some knowledge and some insight from you all, because guys, I can only speak to you from experience. And right now I'm currently sitting in an experience, and I'm just sharing with you guys. The part about people management, setting goals and holding individuals accountable to those goals, and setting individuals up, along a path of success, and making sure that they are successful, and making sure that not only are we divvying out responsibilities based on an individual's strengths and weaknesses, but being able to identify an individual's strengths and weaknesses, sitting with them, helping them, giving them tips and tricks, and kind of just falling back a little bit and kind of seeing what they do with that information that you give them. And so I think that is kind of where I am today, or where I was last year. I think that now, it makes a couple of years now that I've been a supervisor. Girl, cheers. And so just making sure that I'm staying on script, right? Because at this point, I already know how to lead a group of people. I already know how to delegate tasks. I've already been able to identify strengths and weaknesses to say, oh, Gabby is probably stronger in this area, or she's proven herself to be stronger in this area. And this is why, because I've sat with her, I pay attention to her thought process. I see how she is, you know, a very sequential thinker. And, you know, I really feel like that this task that our group owns would sit well with her. And, you know, I think that she would really do really well in that, and assigning it to her, giving her the tips and tricks, and, you know, following up, you know, what trainings does she need? Who's going to train her? Is this person an entry-level person? Is she a permanent employee? Is she a senior? Is Gabby, you know, where is she in her professional timeline? Does she need to sit with a senior, right? Because if we assign Gabby a task and it's something that can, you know, be introduced to her by way of a senior, right? Those are action steps that happen before it even gets to me, right? Or before it, you know, comes full circle back around to me. One second, girl, let me get my charger. Had to switch the angle up on you guys again, girl. My camera was going dead, but this is the third video that I've recorded this day. So in a senior role, and I think that just me personally, there was a lot of overlapping in between my senior role and my supervisor role. But just for me specifically, in a senior role, I was in charge of a lot of delegation for our team, just in general. There were shared delegation responsibilities, or, you know, onus that all the seniors within my group shared collectively. And then there were things that I was responsible for that kind of set the tone for ownership and delegation amongst the team. And what I mean by that is, if we, you know, have 10,000 accounts, you know, the individual who assigns those accounts out amongst the team, being a senior analyst, and we actually have a supervisor and we actually have a manager, right? But I am the individual that's doing that, you know, that is delegation early on. So before I was even performing in this role, I was already assessing my other coworkers, right, who are sitting level with me, as well as some of the junior and entry level folks as well. But being able to say, okay, Charlie is good in this subset, you know, he has a really good working relationship with this set of, you know, FAs, or, you know, financial assistants, so perhaps he should be, you know, ownership over this set of sourced accounts. Or Maria, you know, she is, you know, has a really technical background, just kind of where she came prior to, you know, being in our organization. So, you know, perhaps I want to have her work on, you know, those accounts that are more automated in the system, and I think that she would do really well with that. So I was already, to an extent, doing that. So when I, you know, that was an easy transition for me as a supervisor. And that is kind of a pro tip that I would, you know, offer to you guys as well. Think about what an individual does well already, you know, kind of on the job. Where did they come from? When you sit with them, you know, and they work, and you guys are working through an idea or working through a problem, you know, is that individual able to, you know, problem solve and use critical thinking capabilities? Are they able to connect the dots by themselves, or do they need to be, you know, handheld a little bit further? Quite honestly, guys, there were some things that I could think through myself, but I think that there were also a lot of things that had to be kind of spoon-fed to me as well. The good thing about that is once it was spoon-fed to me, then I could bounce ideas off of the initial groundwork. But I think that is something that a lot of new supervisors or new leadership positioned individuals kind of want to skip. We want to skip the foundation, the groundwork, the still having to, feed the individual kind of the base or the start line. We kind of just step into it and think that everybody's just supposed to figure everything out. Like there's no formal training, just relying on individuals to kind of just use these, standard operating procedures and figure it out by themselves. We're just expecting them to take their prior experience from one job and just come on, even though it's a brand new company, brand new organization, and just, poof, and make something happen. And I did know that that's not something, or that's not how I wanted to lead. I always wanted to be really hands-on. I remember that it was always like really discouraging, knowing that I was working really hard at my desk. I was meeting deadlines, as a junior or as a senior, and, nobody above me knew what I was doing or knew the value of the work that, was the output of that or the outcome of that. No one really made it their business or go the extra mile to sit with me and, figure out what my strengths were and figure out what I did well. There was only one person, and that one person was the individual that worked with me on a day-to-day. Anyone higher up than that individual, nobody was concerned, or nobody made it their business to figure out, okay, well, what is it that Bianca's doing on a day-to-day basis? No one even honestly cared. So I always told myself that I didn't want to be that type of leader. I didn't want to be so far removed from a situation. And keep in mind, guys, I'm only a supervisor, so I am very much so still in the trenches, very much so, doing the work. But, managing people at this point. But nonetheless, I always wanted to be the type of person. I want to sit with you. I want to know what you're thinking about. I want to know, how good is that operating procedure document that we just created? How well are you able to work through that, without having to, ask a question or get stuck or get lost? Are you able to think through a situation? What are you able to identify on your own versus, pieces of information that may be a bit more ambiguous than, others? And that is where I'm able to, that is kind of where what I got good at, if that makes sense. When you sit with someone, you are able to see their thought process, and you're able to identify, okay, well, this is a loophole that needs to be closed. This is probably how we need to make that more efficient. And that is kind of something that I am still continuing to get better at. I think just at the surface level, I'm really good at that. But, kind of as we move into the next point here, there's still areas and opportunities to grow. But just kind of that initial being able to delegate a task or assign a task or assign out job responsibilities within your group, just based upon, someone's strengths or their weaknesses, is because I am sitting with those individuals. And that's what I recommend that you do. And it needs to be very structured, and it needs to be very, planned out. For example, if we're training someone up, do you have any experienced individuals that sit under you who can lead that training? Do you have, anyone else other than yourself that can kind of introduce that, the ones and twos, the A's and B's, so that, by the time that individual sits with you and meets with you, now they're already up to speed and you guys can just move from there, right? Because honestly, if you do have, seasoned individuals on your team, whether they are seniors, whether they, have been with the organization for 2 to 3 years, those individuals are the ones, like we mentioned, right, in your senior role, those are the individuals that are helping their coworkers, to work through an issue, that are answering those easy questions, that are showing, where to go and access information to self-help. So by the time an individual meets with you, to gain expertise or something like that, or you guys are really working through a complicated issue, there are certain levels of information that individual should know before they even make it to you. But if that is not the case, because what happens when everybody on your team is new? What happens when, you are new into a company and, you're having to learn the ropes, right? But just based off of the prior experience that you have, right, you're able to come in, kind of, read the room, get a feel for what's going on, learn the processes, because it's a certain thing about like when you have a certain level of experience or, you have a certain background, just feed me what I need to know. You're able to ask the appropriate questions. You're able to identify the loopholes, and whatever else that doesn't get bridged in that moment will be experience learned along the way. But to our next point, girl, I gotta talk to you about this. I gotta talk to you about this because I'm not gonna lie, this is not like one of my favorite things to do. One of my favorite things to do on the job is not to just sit and have a tracker and have a workspace site and, have a little book where you write everything down, or, to be taking everything in keynotes, or, that is not my favorite thing at all. And let me tell you why. That is not my favorite type of thing at all, because I have been able to self-manage for a very long time. So it was always quite annoying to me, to have all of these trackers and to have to, keep up with the tracker and make sure that it's always current and up to date. That is just not something that I, look forward to. But being, in a leadership position, senior or above, right? I do understand the importance of having those trackers, right? When you begin just reviewing and approving so many different, things, right? You're looking at reports, you're looking at what's done, what's not done, what's past the due date, what are we still on track, to make by the project deadline. You're reviewing things for compliance, you're reviewing things to ensure that we are aligned with our policies, and then you're having to do this for so many different individuals. You want to be able to step in to one place, not 5 different files, right? You want to be able to step into one place and be able to see who's responsible for what, where are we, right? And, I'm not saying one file for all of the department or every single project, right? Obviously, there would be several files for, each individual project or responsibility. Just saying, speaking about one of those projects, right? I only want to look at one file. And this is something that I am, helping my team to try to understand. And again, I can always think back and put myself in their shoes and remember how I felt in that moment versus them not yet being on this end of it, not yet having to have reviewed so many different moving pieces. Baby, I need to be able to step into the one file. I need to see what's outstanding, the revenue impact. I need to see what originally went out the door, to the customer or to, our boss's boss. I need to be able to see it in a one-stop shop. It needs to be clean. It needs to be concise. It doesn't need to have a bunch of colors. And if it is color-coded and organized, it needs to be very just that. Clearly, concisely, color-coded, and there needs to be flow. There needs to be notes, and something that my manager did a really good job of sharing with me is that I'll share with you are bucket categories, right? So if there are a lot of different contingencies or levels that have to happen before something goes from implementation to approval and into production, right? So there's a stage A, a stage B, a stage C, and a stage D. Being able to identify that, right? And sort of kind of come up with some type of like key code, but not really a key code, more so like a key code or umbrella buckets or a way to group each individual stage and to identify it. So let me explain what I mean. So if you guys have a project and, every single month, or not a project, let's not do project. Let's just say there's a certain something that, your department is responsible for performing every single month, and every single month it's due, and the next month it, kind of rolls over and you receive something brand new, right? Let's just say that is whatever it is, whether that's accounts, whether that's a forecasted report, whether that's an accrual, whether that's, whatever it is, make the scenario fit whatever it is in your job role. So let's just say it was that, right? And every time your manager, steps into this file, they just have a really hard time, deciphering through all of the notes. It's really verbose. It's hard to look at, it's not easy on the eye, right? All of those things. There needs to be a way to quantify that information and condense it down into umbrella buckets, right? So we may say that if there are 15 things on this list for this month, the expectation is that those are completed by the end of the month, then, 3 of them sit in category A, which is untouched. 4 of them sit in, category work in progress, right? what is that, 7. The other 7 of them sit in, started, need to be reviewed, right? So that way, when someone steps into, when you, when me, when your manager steps into this file, right, they're able to see, okay, well, out of the 15, we haven't started these. These are a work in progress, and these are, kind of waiting to be, reviewed for approval. Now they have a better sense and understanding of holistically, where do we stand with meeting our objectives? What are we waiting on? Is the ball in our court? Is the ball in another team's court? Where's the delay? Who's holding us up? What's the progress? What are we waiting on? And if they need those individual specifics, then yes, girl, there should be a detailed place within your tracker that has notes, very detailed notes. The notes need to have dates. They need to have initials. Who within your team left that note, right? If it's a working file or a collaborative file. So meaning that more than one person has access to the file. It needs to have dates. It needs to have initials. It needs to be very specific. It needs to have numbers, So I hope you guys are following along. And if you have any tips to add to that, girl, please comment down below. But that is something that I had to, and it's not my favorite thing to do, even still to this day, but I have to do it. I understand the value of it and why it's important, because it wasn't until I actually got into this position and had to start reporting to my manager, and she wanted to know specifics, but not as specific as I was giving her. So more granular but specific, if that makes sense. And that's kind of where the umbrella categories came from. So I didn't come up with that by myself, because I would just keep up with all of this stuff by myself. I would just keep up with it mentally, or kind of just, my makeshift type of ways to keep up with something. But, when my manager came along, she said, hey, we need to be able to categorize this, come up with something. That was easy for me to do, right? Because I was in the work. I knew what was happening. But what does that look like, from a reporting standpoint, for someone who's not in the day-to-day and who does not work with that material every single day like you do? Okay, so you have the knowledge, you know the material, so you should be able to come up with those umbrella categories that that's easy on the eyes and that is easily digestible. Okay. Also, these trackers serve as kind of like a paper trail, like a record keeping, a log for us to remember, what were we working on, day 3 of this project versus day 27 of this project. How much progress was made? Was it pretty stagnant? What was done? Did we do all of our due diligence? So the logs, really are beneficial. So I really had to kind of get on board with that and really force myself to get better at that. And guys, that was not something that I was just, just came to my mind to do, that my manager required of me, and I met or fulfilled that ask. Another thing, guys, that just kind of as we move on to, kind of the whole setting goals for individuals, and having to provide feedback and follow up with them with verbal communication as well as in writing. That was something that was new for me. Keeping in mind that when I first started within my department at my company, we kind of all were starting together. My directors, my managers, all of the contract workers, we were kind of all starting together. And so there was a bit of formality that just did not exist or did not happen, or maybe it was existing and, I just never experienced it. I don't know. But, just the whole having to set an individual's yearly goals, right? So define those goals based upon, what acquisitions or what integrations or projects that are happening within our department in large, right? That individual's strengths and weaknesses. So where within that set list of projects and responsibilities does this individual sit, or how are they aligned? Where would they be a good fit? Checking in with the individual, whether that was quarterly, whether that was, semi-annually, whether that was, more off cycle than that, meaning that, hey, do you need to speak with me? Do I need to speak with you? Do I need to give you some feedback? related to those goals. So all of that was just kind of new for me, just all in all, because I didn't have that, you know, or I had that at State Farm, but I was there for only just a short period of time because, girl, I quickly found out that I did not like sales, nor was I good at sales. I actually sucked at sales. So I wasn't working in that position for a really long time as a State Farm sales agent or insurance agent. So then I went to Honda Finance, and I think that they were doing that, but I didn't really stay there that long either because, you know, I was really chasing a certain salary amount and I was not getting that there. And the ladder to move up was such a slow process. I was able to easily identify that, and so I skedaddled out of there very, very quickly. So when I got to, you know, my third job position, and hold on, girl, is it time for some lip gloss? And let's just do a little lip gloss. But where did we leave off? I'm gonna try to keep going, and I'm gonna push through it, and I'm gonna try to get done with this really kind of quickly because it all kind of pretty much ties together. But all of that was really new for me. And to be honest with you guys, and if you guys have been following my self-esteem, build, you know, self-esteem, self-confidence, how to pick yourself back up series, and if you're not following that series, girl, you should go check it out. It's a really good series. But if you guys have been following me in that series, you guys know that I do not like to make people feel uncomfortable. I do not like to be mean to people. I can be a little assertive, and that can come off as being mean, but just in general, like just, you know, speaking as a human, as a person, I do not like to hurt people's feelings or make people feel uncomfortable. So that was something that I had to kind of grow within in this people management role as a supervisor, which was, you know, when I was a senior and I was working with you, like kind of at a parallel level, I would just, you know, kind of hit it to you cut and dry. Like, this is not how it's supposed to be done. You know, what are you doing? You're tripping, like, you know, but kindly. And I know what you're thinking, like, how do you kindly say that? Just kind of, you know, being really firm in my tone, but always being respectful. That is kind of how I just always handle things. I was always, you know, willing to help someone. And the most interesting thing for me, or the most important part for me, or the takeaway is I really genuinely want you to learn it for yourself. I want you to gain the information. I don't want to be the only person on the team that knows how to do something. I want you to know how to do it as well, so that we can make sure that we're playing on an even or a level playing field. And we talk about that a lot in our last video, part 3B, a level playing field. But anyways, so having to come up with those goals, set those goals for individuals, you know, and meet with them to provide them, you know, feedback. So now I'm having to deal with, you know, rebuttal and, you know, what an individual felt like they were already doing, and, you know, me having to go back and forth with an individual. And girl, one thing you know about me in real life, I don't like to do no back and forth, okay? I don't like to do no back and forth. And so sometimes for me, that kind of overlaps into, you know, my professional, because I do not like to go back and forth. Once I present to you with the facts, and once I present to you what it is, am I open to listen to what you have to say? Yes, absolutely, always. You know, should you be able to challenge what it is that I say and have a healthy rebuttal? Should we be able to have a healthy rebuttal? Absolutely. But after that kind of first and second go back, I'm just not interested in the, now we're having to go back, we're on the 5th and 6th email and we're going back and forth. That just doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in real life, and that's not going to happen on the job. We're not going to be going back and forth 5 and 6, 7 times. That's way too much, okay? You know, because I am presenting you with, you know, what I have observed along the way. So if you also have your observations and you have your points and facts in line, then yeah, sure, let's talk about it, because we're two adults. But girl, all that going back and forth, we're not about to be doing that. So I think that was a part of my job that really kind of made me feel uncomfortable, or makes me feel uncomfortable, is to have those difficult, you know, conversations with an individual about their job performance. Because guys, to be honest with you, we are all working very hard. We all have a lot on our plates. We are, you know, moms. We are handling several different things. So just trying to make sure that I deliver that information, you know, very kindly and with respect, but that I'm also being very truthful and, you know, being factual as well. And if you guys have any tips and tricks for that as well, you know, how often do you meet with your team? Do you guys meet quarterly? Do you guys meet monthly? What works for you? What about what I said, you know, do you have to kind of offer a pro tip about? Girl, I'm very interested, you know, please comment that down below. You know, and just the escalation. I think that, you know, as an individual, you know, I just told you, like, personality, like my characteristic trait, I don't like to go back and forth. So being that I am, you know, looped in for different escalations, being that I am the, you know, kind of looped in for escalation, it's just always, you know, me having to check myself. One thing that I learned along the way, or one thing that I have learned, is that, you know, I could be or can be really emotional in my response, even when I don't feel like it, right? And that was something that I had to learn. You know, because, you know, an individual can say to me, you know, or my manager can say to me, okay, well, you're being, you know, or you're acting or reacting, you know, out of emotion. You really are being emotional. And, you know, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just telling the facts. I mean, if this individual is not performing, this individual is not performing, kind of that type of deal, right? But now I know, or I've learned, even just recently, that I can still say that same information, but with less expression, right? Because it's not what it is that I'm saying. I had to learn that it was how I was saying it. You know, it sounded like there was a bunch of emotion, you know, behind my words. It sounded as if, you know, an individual had really upset me or made me mad. And now, you know, all of my responses, you know, are because of that. You know, it was actually, and to be honest with you guys, it was none of that. It's none of that. So I really just learned to say what it was that I had to say, very expressionless, when the time was right. And so, you know, I never want anyone to feel like I'm making a decision, you know, out of emotion, because honestly, like we mentioned earlier, you know, I'm working with the team. We're working with these individuals. We're sitting with them. We know what it is, you know, that they're doing well in areas of improvement. So I should be able to say that. You should be able to say that without necessarily, making it seem as if it's an emotional response, an opinion-based response versus actual facts. Because baby, they are facts. I'm sitting here every single day working with the individual. These are facts, okay? These are facts, not feelings. So, and I think that that's something that I am also working on in my personal life as well, just not responding so much just out of emotion. I am a very, you know, sensitive type of individual, and I do think that, you know, I would only get further, you know, by kind of continuing to, you know, operate not showing as much emotion, even though, girl, I wasn't even really emotional. So there are just, you know, a lot of other things, you know, in my job that I really didn't, you know, that I really kind of just didn't really think about. You know, when I was a senior and I was hooping and hollering, talking about, well, I already do this, I already do that, I already do this. You know, I was doing a lot of the day-to-day work, which now, you know, I realize, you know, I did that very well. And now I also realize that, do I manage people well? Yeah, I actually do. But, you know, if it was up to me, I actually wouldn't even have to be anyone's boss. You know, I consider myself an equal player just like you. And, you know, I don't always like to have to give feedback and provide feedback. But, you know, I do try to do that, you know, really kindly and very respectfully, as well as, you know, operating in truth as well. You know, girl, I think that I'm just gonna end it here. I think that, you know, if this series is gonna have longevity, if there are more talking points that you guys would want me to speak about, you know, just comment down below and let me know. I may record the rest of this tomorrow, which is, you know, just a few pick-me-ups. But girl, it has been such a great, you know, time talking to you guys. Thank you so much if you've made it this far in the video, in the series. I hope that you guys hit the subscribe button as well as the notification button. It lets YouTube know that this is a good video, that you enjoyed this content. I hope that you were at least able to pick up 1 to 2 things today, girl, and I think that you were. So I just thank God for, you know, this opportunity and my experiences along the way to even be able to share share them with you guys. And you know, I only just even hope to help one girl who just came out of college, or you know, a young professional that just entered the corporate workforce. So girl, that is it for today. I hope that you do something today to feel good about yourself, and I hope to, you know, have you be a part of this community. But if nothing else, girl, we are done. I'll see you in the next one, girl. Bye.